Today we are going to talk about Shiloh, April 1862, a Columbia block war game, clearly about the famous Battle of the American Civil War. And in order to reproduce some of the features of the Battle of Shiloh, this design has a couple of interesting things to it. First is the non-symmetrical play. The game starts on the first day of the battle with a surprise attack of the Confederate Army, and for day one the Confederate Army will have a huge advantage in terms of reinforcements and command, and so the Union for that day will be forced to retreat and defend and just try not to be annihilated while they're waiting for reinforcements. If they survive day one, then they will receive reinforcement, and in day two the situations will be dramatically changed, and now is the Confederate Army that has to defend. So there will be one day one army's advantage and the other day the other army's advantage. However, this is the thing, you do not know at the beginning of the game if you're going to play for 1 day or 2 days. The victory condition for the Confederate Army to win at the end of day one is to destroy 10 enemy units more than the enemy does. The Union destroys 1 unit of the Confederates destroy 11, it's 10 more, they win. Less than 10, then you have to play day 2. So this is the strange thing, that the game will last either 2 hours if you only play day 1, or around 4 hours. There isn't anything in between, and there isn't really a way of telling how long the game is going to be before you start playing it. Also, in order to reproduce the extreme violence that happened at Shiloh, the victory conditions are in fact based only on the number of units that you destroy. There is not such a thing as taking control of an area or defending something. It is kill or be killed, even though most of the times it will be kill and be killed. Just try to kill a little more than the enemy does. There are a couple of options that you can have while you're setting up the game, but more or less the initial setup will look like this. You will have, coming from southwest, the Confederate Army that is marching in a tight formation, huge power, huge impact, and it already shows up pretty close to the lines of the Union Army. So that really represents well the surprise effect that the attack had. As if that wasn't enough, the Confederate player is also going to receive a bunch of reinforcements in turn 3, whereas the Union Army will have to wait for much longer before somebody comes to the rescue. This is the same setup seen from the point of view of the Union player, and as you can see, things look much grimmer from here. Your army is scattered all over the place, and actually there is a special rule for setup that forces you to have your troops scattered around. The enemy is already very close. Grant is not there yet, the space is empty. Your commanders are at 0 point of command, most of them, which is a very bad thing. So the first thing you will want to do probably is just to try to regroup and run as fast as you can, and maybe you will even choose to sacrifice some of your forward units just to slow down the enemy army for as long as possible. This is a block war game, which means that the units are represented by wooden blocks that are standing on the board and facing the owning player, which provides a simple and effective mechanism of fog of war, because you know where the enemy units are and how many units are in a certain area, but you do not know exactly what they are, how fast and strong they are. Also, it provides a very effective and elegant way of keeping track of the strength of your units, because the strength is the number here on top. Suppose that this unit takes a hit, then you just flip it and record that way the fact that it's lost a step. If that unit is rebuilt later, just flip it back. So it's a very simple, very effective mechanism. To activate your units, you will need to use your headquarters, which are of 2 types. One is the army headquarters with the portrait of a leader. The other one is the divisional headquarters with a flag and the number indicating the division that that unit leads. Also, the headquarters have a number, a yellow number there, indicating the range or the command. The way it works is you tip down your leader to indicate that you're activating him, and army headquarters can issue orders to any 3 units within their range without any regard for the division. After you issue an order, then you flip the headquarters to lose a step, because it's very expensive to issue orders, so you will continuously have to spend resource points to replenish your leaders, and after that the leader can move. normally. Divisional headquarters work a little differently, a little more tricky. Again, you activate them, and they can issue orders to any piece from any division as long as they are in the same area. For example, this is from the first division, but is in the same area as the leader of the third, can be issued an order. However, then the divisional leader can also issue orders to blocks which are of its own division and are within command range. For example, here's the range of 2, so he could send an order to this unit here, which is of the 3rd division. These are the unit, 3rd division, actually even all the way up to here, which is 1, 2, 3 areas away. So it is very interesting, it's very important that you try to keep your divisions close to their leader, because if you start spreading them around the board, then it becomes very hard to maneuver them, and they're very expensive in terms of the points that you need to use. Your best friend and your worst enemy in this game is going to be this terrain effects chart, which details not only the stacking limit of units that you can have in an area, and this is pretty easy, 6 in clear terrain and 4 in the woods, but much more important, the number of units that you can move across a certain border when you're moving into a friendly or empty area, or when you're entering battle or exiting battle. And as you can see, of course, the battle number is much more restrictive. In this case, for example, you can enter with 6 units through a clear border when you're just going to an empty area, and 3 to enter a battle. That has an enormous effect on the game. You'll be thinking about those limits all the time because they affect every decision you make. For example, if this is the case, the Union is defending in that clear terrain area. Is a very good place to defend because you have a stacking limit of 6 because it's clear, but then it's surrounded by annoying limits. So for example, if the Confederate player wants to attack that area, we'll have to do a lot of positioning and maneuvering because this border here with this slope going up and a stream, only 1 unit can be brought through to join a battle. Here we have a stream but also a ford, then 2 units can be brought in, stream and slope going up, and then woods, that would be 2. So you can see there's a lot of work that you have to do to be able to mount a powerful attack that comes from different directions. However, and here's the tricky thing, if you defend in a certain way, defend with your units too close to one another, like in this case, then that border limit thing can backfire. In fact, remember that you have those border limits also to exit battles. So suppose that now the Union player wants to retreat the units out of that axe because the attack is very powerful, you'll be able to bring only 3 units per turn across that border. So if you want to move everybody out, you can't. Also, you have a stacking limit, so actually now these units here would be stacked in that, completely stacked in that area. So those borders are very important. If you do not keep your units together and somebody is left behind because of the border limit, that can be fatal because they can be easily surrounded. If you mount a powerful defense, it's very strong, but you do not keep an eye on the way you can retreat in case you need to, that can be fatal too. I really like this game. It's intense, it's involved, it is challenging to play, not because the rules are difficult. I used it to introduce a friend to block wargaming and he had no problem with this game. Complex meaning, just the choices that you are faced with. I can see only 2 reasons why some people might not like it. One might be because the situation on day 1 for the Union is so dire that the game might at first look unbalanced. It might seem like the Union does not have many chances of winning, but it can be done. If the Union consolidates its defenses fast enough and does a couple of other tricky things, which I'm not disclosing here, just in case one day we play together, then trust me, the Union can survive day 1 and win on day 2. The other reason maybe is that in an era like we live in, where everything has to be fast-paced, this game is not really fast-paced. I like fast-paced games, it's just that I think that those are not the only type of rewarding game that there is. And here there is a lot of thinking that you have to do. You have to keep your divisions together. If they're too scattered, that's really not good. The system of the border limits is really unforgiving. If you're not careful, you're gonna have your people surrounded by the enemies or just getting in each other way to the point that your brigades will just get shattered because of that, and you will lose because of that. So there will be a lot of thinking. I found that both players really need to take their time, and that makes for a slightly slower game, rather slower than other Columbia block games. However, if you're picking up this game, probably it's because you like that intellectual challenge of really feeling the agony of maneuvering in this area, just crowded with soldiers which are everywhere, and it's a labyrinth of woods and streams and slopes and ravines, and it's really a nightmare to be able to coordinate everybody. Well, if you like that challenge, then you will not mind the slow pace. Actually, you will take it as an opportunity to develop and redevelop your strategy all the time. So again, if you think you may like this type of game, I think Shiloh April 1862 is a really excellent one. It's a sort of continuous puzzles and challenges, and I really like it and recommend it.